Alrighty, welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for clicking on today's video. Just a disclaimer, today we are going to be talking about something very sad, about someone passing away. So if that's not something that you want to watch, click away. I mean, you probably would have got that information from the thumbnail, but it is actually genuinely a pretty sad story. And so, just click away. But today we're going to be talking about a raw vegan influencer that recently passed away, and a lot of people are speculating and basically saying that it seems like they basically starved to death, and their family kind of came out and talked about it a little bit as well. And it's a really sad situation, but one that I haven't seen this exact thing, but I have seen more and more with people becoming more and more extreme on social media about their diets. It's something that worries me. And so that's why I wanted to talk about this. And I hope that this, I hope that this spreads and it helps the person that might just be there looking at social media, seeing all these people post about stuff, and just always be very careful when someone makes their diet everything to them and it becomes like their entire personality and they become very legalistic about how they're eating. It's just something that I hope people avoid. And so without further ado, let's just get into this article. So this is from the Daily Mail, who honestly, they have a lot of ads. I usually have an ad blocker, but when I click on my ad blocker and try and block the ads, they do not like that. And then a whole thing comes on that says, hey, it looks like you are, watch, I'll show you. I'll turn on my ad blocker and it will say 30 ads blocked, 68 ads blocked, and then this comes up. And so basically I have to turn these back on, and it's very annoying because there's a lot of them, but hopefully you can get through it with me. But let's just get into this article. So it's from Daily Mail, aka adsgalore.com. And it goes on to say, vegan influencer Zana Samsonova, I believe is how you pronounce that, chilling final Instagram post shared days before she, in quotes, starved to death. And it says in some bullet points, the 39-year-old reportedly died from cholera-like infection that was exacerbated by her extreme restrictive eating. And so it goes on to say, a vegan raw food influencer who lived on an extreme diet of exotic fruits shared a chilling final post days before she reportedly died from starvation and exhaustion. Zana Samsonova, originally from Russia, known as Zana Dart on social media, had been on the raw plant-based diet for 10 years that consisted of fruits, sunflower seed sprouts, fruit smoothies, and juices. There were also periods where the 39-year-old would practice dry fasting, where she would refuse to eat or drink anything for days. And so this is the post that they're kind of talking about. I just want to share this. So this was like a story post, right? And it goes on to say, life is meaningless, but worth living provided you recognize it's meaningless. And as you can see, I mean, like she's obviously like super thin in that photo. And I think what's important is, like, obviously it's not like she went raw vegan and then all of a sudden passed away. And I don't even think that, like, there are going to be people that maybe talk about this that are going to be like, this is why veganism is dangerous. This is why you should avoid this thing or that thing. And I don't want to go down that road because I think you can absolutely 1,000 billion% be vegan and be completely healthy. I think you can be vegan and be very unhealthy, right? I don't think that in and of itself is an issue here. I think once you start going into the depths of any sort of these diets, that's when things can get dangerous. Like, the more that you start restricting, like, different macronutrients, right? I'm not going to have any fat ever. I'm not going to have this. I'm not going to have that. I'm only going to allow myself to eat a very small, I'm only going to allow myself to eat very small types of foods, right? There's only going to be a few things that I allow myself to eat. You're just introducing yourself to so many dangers of, like, missing so many micronutrients and macronutrients, but like micronutrients, vitamins, all of those things, like, you're completely missing out on because you have arbitrarily decided that some foods are bad and some foods are good. And this is why I'm really, really against moralizing food and saying this food is good and this food is bad. It's like, okay, if you want to look at food in a way that's a little bit more critical, I understand, right? Especially if you're starting out, you don't really know how. I don't like to go bad or good. There might just be, this food is probably a little bit more, in line with the goals that I have at this moment, and this isn't, right? Like, I used to eat, candy a lot more than I do now, but I don't think candy is bad and evil. It's just, there's not much benefit to it for me, and so I don't have it as often, but I'm not like, candy is evil and I can never have it because if I eat it, it's going to do some irreparable damage to me, right? And so that's why I don't love when people start really moralizing food and saying this food you can never have, because any food, truly, in moderation, is okay, right? Any food, truly. Like pizza, if you want to have the fattest slice of pie, like if you're not doing that often, you want to do it every once in a while, and when I say once in a while, I mean that once in a while, that's fine, right? It's when you are only doing those things. And then again, if you're starting to cut out so many types of foods, that's where the danger lies. Like, and there might not be people that think this, but there might be people that think, I've seen your full day of eatings and you eat similar food every day. One, you are right. But I also actually don't eat the same food every single day and don't deviate at all, right? I allow myself to go out and eat. I just don't share that very often, right? And so but when you are telling yourself, I can only have like 5 things, that's going to be dangerous in the long run. But moving on, it says Miss Samsonova, who hadn't drunk water for more than 6 years, but instead replaced it with fruit and vegetable juices, died July 21st in Malaysia. The influencer, who had over 10,000 Instagram followers and had been traveling across Asia for the past 17 years, which, I mean, that was probably pretty cool. I mean, 17 years, that's insane. Reportedly died from a cholera-like infection that was exacerbated by her extreme restrictive dieting, her mother told Russian newspaper. I'm not going to try and read that, but in the days before her death, she shared a shocking post which read, "Life is meaningless." This is this thing right here, right? I don't know. There's people that have been speculating, oh, she knew she was going to pass. I don't know. I mean, there's like a whole sect of like philosophy that goes down this kind of thought process, and I don't think everyone that thinks that way is like, thinking they want to end things or they know things are going to end soon. I think it's called nihilism, if I remember correctly. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. I'm sure I am. But, it's the thought of life is meaningless, but that doesn't mean you can't have a life worth living, right? And there are positives. A lot of people can say there are negatives as well. But, I don't think that this in and of itself is like, oh, she knew that she was going to pass or anything like that. It could be, obviously, all speculation. And then here's some photos of her, and if you go through her Instagram, which I did before I recorded this, you can see the change in how she, at least I felt like how she looked even in the past few months, and it was pretty shocking. But this is, she was very, very thin, clearly. But so posting the selfie on Instagram page days before her death emerged, she wrote, "Life is meaningless but worth living, provided we recognize it's meaningless." The food blogger's mother, Vera Samsonova, told local news outlets Ms. Samsonova was supposed to fly home to Kazan on the day of her death. Jeez. The food blogger's mother, she did not approve of the daughter's extreme diet and tried to convince her to introduce more balanced eating habits, but she refused. Ms. Samsonova moved from veganism to a purely raw food diet consisting of vegetables and fruit, with the influencer sharing what she described as healthy recipes on her Instagram profile. The influencer, who appeared increasingly emaciated in her social media videos as time went on, would post footage of her eating her lunch, which consisted of a whole melon and carrot juice at times. In another video, Ms. Samsonova told her Instagram followers now how she was having cherry tomatoes and avocado juice for lunch. "Despite the fact that I cook fancy raw dishes, I eat very simply myself. My food is simple: no oil, no salt, no salt. That's your body needs sodium, but no dehydrated fruit and no protein," Ms. Samsonova wrote in a post. "Today for lunch, I have delicious avocado kefir, sweet cherry tomatoes, and ripe avocado. Bon appetit." Her friends and family warned her against her extreme diet, but she refused to listen, and it proved fatal after She reportedly died from an infection and exhaustion exacerbated by her raw food diet. Ms. Samsonova's friend, who she met in Thailand, told Russell news outlet, "It was scary to look at her, to be honest. Her hands were like those of 12-year-old sister, thin." Another friend said they saw Ms. Samsonova a few months ago in Sri Lanka looking exhausted. They sent her home to seek treatment. However, she ran away again. When I saw her in Phuket, I was horrified, they said. And then some more photos of her. And then, "I've lived one floor above her, and every day I feared finding her lifeless body in the morning. I convinced her to seek treatment, but she didn't make it," the friend added. Another friend said Ms. Samsonova's idle starvation was causing her to melt before our eyes, but she believed everything was fine. Only her eyes, merry eyes, and gorgeous hair compensated for the dreadful sight of a body tortured by idiocy. Forgive me if that sounds harsh. One person commented on Ms. Samsonova's recent post and wrote, "This is just pure starvation, not a healthy raw vegan diet. I'm sorry to hear it ended badly. I wish I could have helped you out of your eating disorder." Ms. Samsonova had been following a vegan diet for more than 15 years, starting out by allowing herself fish and dairy occasionally. However, over the years, her restrictive eating became more and more extreme, and she eventually ate only raw fruits and vegetables alongside juice. She had claimed that 10 years on a raw food, plant-based diet had meant she was in perfect health and never got the usual seasonal cold. But in 2001, Ms. Samsonova traveled back to her native Russia for the first time in 9 years and immediately fell ill with coronavirus. Ms. Samsonova said she had ignored all COVID precautions before coming infected and bizarrely claimed she cured herself of the virus by dry fasting, where she did not drink or eat anything for more than 10 days. She wrote on Instagram, "I was the category of people who wasn't afraid to get infected with the viruses, and I ignored all precautions because over the past 10 years on raw plant-based diets, I was in perfect health and didn't even get the usual seasonal cold. And ironically, I still got sick and I was in bed for 10 days. Ms. Samsonova then went on to bizarrely claim, "I began to cure myself with dry fasting since for a long time I have been practicing this method and as I can cure all ailments." Okay. The illness gradually began to recede. Already the days of dry hunger and I was getting better and better every day, and the most critical time is behind me, and I have overcome this disease despite my unconventional treatment, which many condemn. And so that's the entire article there. And so at the end of the day, the reason that I wanted to share this is, one, obviously it's very sad, but hopefully this, brings awareness to these types of things. And like, obviously not everyone is going, and I hope not everyone gets to this extreme. Like, this is like as extreme as it can get, right? It doesn't really get any worse than that. But I just want people that are watching this to just always be critical of anyone that you're following that is claiming that they have answers that no one else has. And especially if most people are saying, I don't know about this, and they just write them off as like, oh, that they're just a hater, they don't know, right? Like, if the consensus and the majority of people are disagreeing with what's being said, and what's being said is to be the cure-all for every ailment and every illness and all that stuff, like, you have to be critical and like understand that if it sounds too good to be true when it comes to nutrition and fitness, it probably is. And so you just have to trust your gut in this kind of situation. I'm really, really sorry for her family. I'm sorry for her. It really is sad, but hopefully this does open up more dialogue about this kind of stuff and how it is, rampant. And especially with TikTok, it's just become so common to see these extreme diets and think to yourself, oh, I should try that, right? Like, you probably shouldn't. You should, I understand why people do it. I get it. We are all looking for something that makes it like easy, or not even easy, because this is not easy, right? But it makes it make sense. It's just like, it makes it like easier as far as you don't have to think as much. You just get these few things and that's it, right? Just be critical of that stuff, because usually it's, it sounds good, but in reality, it's not the best thing for you. But I just wanted to share that. I would love to know what y'all think in the comment section down below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Peace.